I'm a fake professor. I spent a good deal of my early years in neighborhood organizing and the civil rights movement, and then about mid-career I went into the university and helped to start the Center for Urban Affairs and was made a professor of community studies. And it was a wonderful experience for me to move from the world of neighborhoods into the university, because what I could see was that I was in two lands with two languages. And that in the neighborhood, the language is of knowing. How do you know things? Is by stories and experience. And then I would go into the university, and there I found people know things by studies and data. So since we all here have a leg in both of those camps, it seems to me that really effective initiatives require you to be bilingual, to be able to talk neighborhood, but to also be able to talk university, and I think maybe be a translator of one to the other. Now, when I went to the university, I was in a social science research center, and I didn't know much about what they do in universities. And this center was focused on cities, neighborhoods, low-income places. And so I checked out what it was that they did. What are they studying, right? And let me tell you the story about what I found. I still have the list. They were all committed people, and this is what they were studying: unemployment, truancy, gangs, family breakdown, substandard housing, illiteracy, child abuse, crime, graffiti, mental disability, lead poisoning, school dropouts, teenage pregnancy, and domestic abuse. And so what they saw in a neighborhood is what I just read to you. And I thought that was really curious, because I wasn't sure who wanted to know from a data point of view about those things. Because as a neighborhood organizer, if I said to somebody in the neighborhood, would you like me to count up how much graffiti there is here in the neighborhood? I think they'd look at me and sort of curiously and said, well, it's a hobby. If you want to do that, you can. We're aware of this. Why do you want to count it up? And so then I discovered that the reason that we count up these deficiencies, right, is because they are valuable. And they are valuable to funders. Right? Foundations and governments that give grants are very interested in having really, really systematic data about what's wrong. And the wronger you can make it, the more money you're liable to get. And so you have a constituency, I realized, for this kind of information. I think its generic name is a needs survey, right? And nobody needs a needs survey in the neighborhood, but there's a whole industry that needs these needs, right? And so what this center where I was doing was, it was the intermediary that prospected for needs in neighborhoods and gave the needs to funders and to universities. They'd share it, right? And they then needed needs. And what struck me was that I had never, as a neighborhood organizer, thought about the place the way all the people who were doing research about the same place were thinking about it. They always were thinking, you know, the glass half full and half empty. Well, they were looking at the empty half. But when you're organizing, what you're organizing is the full half of people, not the empty half. And so one of the things that reminded me of was that when you introduce students to something called the community or a neighborhood, if you put them in a situation where the focus is an empty half, what they will learn is that they come from a world and are associated with one that fixes people. And that the people that they are encountering are viewed from an emptiness half. And so it's a real challenge when we think about putting people in the field or internships. Do you want them to understand the people in neighborhoods through the lens of emptiness and deficiency? Right? Now, I don't want to be totally negative about that, because there is a world of people that I just love who are emptiness people. My doctor is an absolutely wonderful emptiness person. He is not interested in my gifts or capacities or abilities. If I sit down and tell him, he'll be bored. So there is a world, right, of people who focus on deficiencies, but we really need to understand that an awful lot of what we're doing when we place kids in that world is to teach them the pedagogy of a problem and the professional ability to fix it. Now, there's another thing I learned at the university. We decided that by and large at universities, they didn't seem to know much about the full half. So we'd undertake a study of what was there that people used to make things better, since we knew what was wrong, and we didn't know the other half. And we visited over 3,000, well, we visited about 300 neighborhoods in 20 cities over 4 years, and met with residents in neighborhoods and asked them what they had done together to make things better. And we got 3,000 stories and looked at them, and what they revealed was what you didn't find much in universities at the time, and that is, what are the resources that are there that people use when they become problem solvers and citizens, rather than clients and consumers. And what we called those assets.